G'day all, Ben here, East West. Just going to do a video here on gold and silver. Before I do, thanks to everyone who commented on last week's video. I know I had a bit of a whinge about uh, connecting to the audience or lack thereof. I think sometimes it's as a doing this, it gets a bit frustrating looking at sort of other videos. You get thousands of looks and they don't really provide much, in my opinion. But nonetheless, that's all right. I'm making this for people who find value out of it. So thank you for everyone who did respond. I don't need you to respond. It always lifts my spirits a bit. But anyway, look, we'll crack on. Last week's video and response gave me put a bit of wind in my sails. So let's just make this one at least, and we'll see how we go. So let's just start off with the dollar index as we do every week. So obviously this week we've had a little bit of toing and froing here in terms of data, and that's just obviously helped accelerate the case for rate cuts in the States, and that of course is going to weigh on the US dollar, which it now has. So we've broken through this little trend that we were looking at, and now of course this is where, just with the metals, I'm thinking, okay, this is now a point of call. We've got a pretty good support level here in the dollar index that happens to line up with this retracement level. So what I'm suggesting is that there's reason here, I think, in my opinion, just for the market to pause maybe, and maybe just have a little counter rally. Maybe even what you see is the old test that from below before we go again. But nonetheless, I think we are on the verge of this trend confirming, which we haven't done yet, but we're certainly making the right move. So that would be what I'd be concerned about just in the short term with the dollar index. We might just get that little bounce away because there's going to be a bit of stubbornness here, I think. Oh, it could be wrong, could crack straight through, but that's just the way I would read it. That being the case, I'd just be looking at the metals going, okay, well, can I make a case for a corrective sell-off and a chance to establish longs on the bigger picture? So here we are with gold, and this is we talked about the break of this triangle and on its continue, which has been quite good. So we had a very big up candle here on the CPI. This candle here is, I wouldn't say it's a hanging man, but it's kind of got that connotation. The big rally and then a little bit of an indecisive candle where they couldn't bust through the tops and they sort of closed the market. The buyers fought back here, but the market closed off its open and off its high. Wouldn't read too much into it. Just a little bit of indecision, which is not, we're digesting some big moves, so it's going to take a bit of time. So this is kind of where we sat last week, and I was looking for a pullback. So I had wave 4 in this zone, but of course it's gone a bit deeper than that, so I'm going to have to just adjust. This is just what I drew up. I haven't changed it. But more or less, this is what we were looking for, and that's kind of what's happened, right? So we can remove this. Now this was deep a little bit. This is just a classic area where you would expect, but that's it's not a rule. If you're looking at this in an Elliott sense, the only real rule is that you don't want it going lower than that, which it didn't. In fact, we just came back here. We went over 50%, which is not usually. You wouldn't want to see wave 4 go 50% the length of wave 3. But there's no hard and fast rule, and all we really did is we came back into wave 4 of a lesser degree, which is right, but all we really did is come back down here and test this level again. So no drama, that's fine. And the other thing too, of course, is we had what appears to be a flat 2, and now we've got a sharp 4, so that sort of fits the guidelines of alternation. Then the other thing we can do, of course, is just connect the bottom of 2 and 4 off and take a parallel off 3 to look for the top of 5. And that sort of helps us just confirm that this is an impulse. I mean, I think that's a pretty good case for an impulse. I think maybe the subdivision of this is a little bit iffy, but I'm just looking at what I can see in the big picture here. So, like I said, Elliott's not the be all and end all, but if you can just draw a structure around the market that makes sense, then great. So when we're out here on an hourly, the RSI is not really giving us much, but if we come out here to a 4 hourly and sort of, so I think just this looks better as the Elliott pattern, but out here on the 4 hourly we've got this nice divergence between 3 and 5, okay, which would make me think, okay, well, have we got a completed move up here, and if we do, what would we expect? 3 waves back. I mean, it's just, Elliott or not, that's just corrections in threes is just what we're kind of looking for. Okay, and what would be lovely would be to come back and test this again, to hold it on the bigger picture and then really go. That would be, with your first point of call being the measured move, that would be great. But we'll have to wait and see if that eventuates. But the point here is that I think, we're pretty hot. Actually, just coming here to the alley, you can see the divergence, the stark divergence here. Okay, so I'm looking at this peak to this peak, but that's kind of old news now, right? Because we're on an alley. So when you look at this didn't make the high, but the power looks like it's running out. That's how I would read what's going on here. Now, of course, we have to wait and see what's going to happen here. But I would be expecting, well, at least that, just like an AB equals CD move, which would tie in nicely to this peak. But, what I would like to see personally is a move, an extended move, like a one. So, the danger here is when you see that, you think, oh, this might be an impulse. But, of course, you can get a big extended C wave and then the push away. So we don't really know what's going to happen. We just draw up battle plans, and that would be the battle plan for coming into next week. So if we just move out here again so we can see what's going on, that remains what we would like to see, because we can just we can fashion ourselves a psychological crutch about pulling the trigger on a trade. And that's all we're really doing. So that would be lovely if we could see that, and that would kind of fit. And you'd be thinking, okay, well, what have I got then, looking at the bigger picture? Well, you'd hope what you're seeing is that you've got 1, and now you're looking for 2. Okay, or just and it doesn't have to be 1, 2, but it's what you're looking for is this impulsive move, and it's the first impulsive move out of a correction, a corrective pullback, and then your expectation would be another impulsive move, possibly a third wave, maybe an A wave, a C wave. I'm not going to get into the semantics, but that's just the setup. That's everything's just playing to that tune. So there's no reason to go away from that expectation at this stage. So that's what I'd suggest. So let me just clean this up so I can sort of leave these markings on here. Let's get rid of that. We know that this is kind of the area we're looking for, because this is the 50% line. So we'll just box that up. We don't need this. This is what we're hoping for, but we don't know what we're going to get. So, that remains the trade. Sort of. So what are you talking about here? 2360 to 2340, that sort of area. That's where I'm looking for. But of course, things could change if this might start doing that, and we go a bit further. We're going back here and re-examining what's going on. But that remains the game plan into next week. Looking for that pullback as an opportunity to get long. Just flicking over to silver here, and this one's a little bit more tricky. So this is where we left it last week, and we were talking about, I think we left it right here where I've got that circle. So we're talking about the pullback and then maybe the extension. So it hasn't really played to that tune, has it? Because it's busted through this zone. So a couple of times. So let's just get rid of that. We did wedge in here. Okay, you can sort of see as we're moving closer. We'll get rid of this now because that was just what we'd hoped to see. But we did kind of do a bit of wedging in here. We sort of wedged in, and then at the bottom we kind of wedged up, and then we broke, but we never made that measured move. But that's not a good measured move setup for me anyway, so I'd be pretty much getting rid of that now. In terms of Elliott, once again, very difficult. I did go back and have another look at this after last week's video. I think you could probably make a case that you've got an expanding leading diagonal going in here. I think that's probably not an unfair way to play it to make a 1 wave. So I think we'll kind of look at this as maybe like a 1 wave, a 2 wave. This looked like a 3 wave, though now I would kind of suspect that that's the 3, because this looks like a pretty good case for a 4, maybe even to a triangle 4, and then a 5th here, which looks like it'd be difficult to subdivide, so I'm not even going to try. But the point here is, when we come back up here, the divergence here looks a little bit starker. So we've got 3 to 5. That's a pretty good warning sign. Now, same thing applies here. This Elliott structure around this is iffy, so I'm not leaning into it too hard. But this does look like a decent case for a completed rally, and now what what do we want? We've got a little bit of a pullback here, but this looks a lot closer to coming into zones of interest. So I would be looking at this definitely. Okay, definitely looking at that. If we sort of, pardon me, if we penetrate this, into this zone, that looks pretty good. I would have thought for a short-term trade at least. Then we're talking about then getting back up to there. So we just come up real close here on a 30-minute. So we didn't really get a retracement out of this bounce, not to the zone. Maybe you could start making I mean, you'll be able to find one, but even that miss, that's a little bit over. So I don't think it's massively in tune there. But yeah, I'm just on a 30-minute too. So let's just get rid of that RSI because I'm not looking at that at the moment. But remember what we were saying here, that this is the whole thing, right? And this looks like a nice sort of area. Just see where those tops come in. This top, there's a little bit in here, and probably tighten that right up onto that. Yeah, that sort of thing. Okay, that becomes just, okay, maybe we just widen out to encapsulate that. But now I'm looking now, so if I just widen this out, so I'm looking now at this, and I'm looking at that. And so what would I think straight away? I was like, well, how can I draw some sort of confluence that would give me, so the length of this projected off that, okay, so 100% would just take us right down into this zone. So maybe you even widen that out and just encapsulate that. But you get the point, right? And I'm not trying to force fit this, but all this lining up with that, lining up with 1-to-1 of that, lining up with this, that looks like the area for me. So when we're talking about silver next week, we're talking about $30.15 down to, what's that? Well, that's $29.62. This has been around $29.80. But this looks like the serious good value zone. So, there's nothing to say, though, that it doesn't go further. Of course, you can never rule anything out. So, maybe this gets down here and it goes down there. It's not impossible. It does and can and will happen. But you don't know. All you've got is what you think looks like a good zone. To me, that's what the good zone looks like. So let's just clean that up. Okay, so I'm going to leave this like this, and we'll see what transpires into next week. But that's kind of where I sit, right? So the overall theme is we're a little bit hot. I'm expecting a pullback. I'm looking for that pullback as a chance to establish longs, so that when we move out, what we're effectively doing here in silver or gold, take your poison, name your poison, is a continuation of that. That's what we're looking for. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye for now.